Welcome to Selectboard Sewer Commissioners meeting, November 16, 2022. This meeting is also be held virtually in a hybrid settings. For the Zoom information, it's all given in the agenda. Roll call. Everyone is present except Mark Frieden. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, public comments. This 15 minutes period is an opportunity for the public to address their concerns, questions regarding town operations and programs to the board. So which is not in the agenda. Is there any public comments? Hearing none. Next approval of meeting minutes, August 17, 2022.
So moved.
It wasn't on, it's on now.
Is that a second?
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Review and vote to approve warrants for the period covering November 3rd, 2022 through November 16, 2022. Town payable warrants FY 2023-19 and FY 2023-20. Sewer warrants FY 2023-11. School warrants FY 2023-S9 and FY 2023-S10. Payroll warrants FY 2023-10 and MLP FY 2023 number 9.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, Kevin Duffy, DPW Director.
Thank you very much for having me tonight. I understand we're looking to move the discussion on amending the snow and ice policy to a future meeting.
That's correct.
So the next item under, for me, is the salt reduction grant. This is a program with DCR that they've been running annually the past few years. Just looking, and one change that they did is previously the applications are due in February. You get the notice of approval in April, then you have to spend the money by the end of the fiscal year. It's a very tight schedule to get everything done. Also, it misses your snow season. So one good thing that they did this year was they went out and they changed it. The applications were due this fall. Looking at our department and our needs, one thing that I wanted to do, there is no electricity at our salt shed. I think safer operating conditions, if we had lighting at that structure, would really be beneficial to our staff. So that is what I have put in for. Our old electrical infrastructure there was all rotted and deteriorated. Everything was hanging low right near where the salt is going to be. So everything will now be at heights that'll keep it away from the salt. We'll make it so that this system's last. The grant itself is for $2,588, which is half of the costs of the quote that I have from an electrician to perform the work. So it's 50-50. We'll put up the other half to get the work done. So I think we are looking for a vote of approval for us to accept this grant from DCR.
So moved.
You want to read this actual language?
Oh, sorry.
You want,
Okay.
it's,
You want to read? No, ma'am,
So
you
I'll
know,
make-
he made the motion, that's why.
I'll make a motion to vote to accept the grant in accordance with MGL Chapter 44, Section 53A.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Next.
So in order to put that lighting, it's about $5,000?
What's that?
You're saying it's about 5,000 to put
Yes,
the lighting?
to demo everything that's there and to install the new service. Yes. And the new light
New lighting.
fixtures as well.
Yep.
And with that, obviously, I know it's been brought up before that the salt shed had some damage from a storm last November to the roof specifically. So we've been, the town administrator's office and myself have been working with our insurance company to get that work completed.
Oh, that hasn't been, I know, it's been a while. It's not been done yet?
There were some issues with the design of the roof, the existing structure, the part that remained, which had been shored up back in January of last year. So it's not that we just had a gaping hole for the past 12 months. But so they needed to bring the actual truss system, the structural support of the roof up to code because what was there previously doesn't match, was not up to existing code. So there was an improvement actually that has been made. Right now, they've been there for a couple weeks. Their hope is to, their plan is to be done with all work before the Thanksgiving holiday. They should be wrapping up next week. All the sheathing is up. They're working on the fascia right now, so it's in, and the trusses are all up. So we're making good progress, and that'll be wrapped up soon. And then as soon as that's done and we get all of our paperwork done with DCR, that's when we'll come in and get the lighting installed, so.
There was no lighting before the insurance issue?
No, it was all rotted and deteriorated. There's nothing functioning.
So with that, the town residents can get the salt. It's at a different location, right?
This is a different structure. This is for DPW use to do the roads. That's actually what we did. That was part of what we did for last year's grant. There is a new three-sided structure, if you will, that we had constructed this past summer at DPW. Previously, it was just some concrete blocks that was open-ended. There was a tarp that was held down by cinder blocks. Definitely not a good system. So now it's actually covered, three-sided. Residents can come in and they can get a sand salt mix for their use at their own homes. It's for residential use only.
And it's looking at the building, it's way over to the right.
To the left. If you're looking at the building, it's all the way to the left,
What's the police station?
towards the reservoir.
Yeah, looking at the DPW over to the left, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, is there lighting over there?
Yes,
Okay.
we installed, I ordered a solar light a month or two ago when we put that up. It seems to be working good. It's motion activated, so it won't be on constantly, but if somebody does pull up, it works.
Perfect.
And Mr. Chairman, that's been posted on social media so that folks know they can go in.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
one
an
of the,
email came out or something. I saw something, there was a picture, aerial view, and it pointed at where the shed is. I don't know who said that.
I
You said that.
provided a map
Okay.
for
Yeah.
town administrator's office to.
that's one of the frequently asked questions. Thank you.
Next, an update on line striping. I don't know if the manual is able to bring up the slides. I know this was a question from the select board. I know this was previously the direction from the select board to move ahead with getting the town done with epoxy line striping. So far, we've done approximately 384,000 linear feet of epoxy. Epoxy does come at a premium cost, and there are some roads that were in need of line striping that truthfully, they aren't in the condition where you'd want to put epoxy on it just for longevity purposes, because if you do work on that road in the next year or two, it'd be a waste to be putting that into it. So we did do 86,500 a couple months back using a water-based on some of the roads that were more in need of attention in the upcoming couple of years. So it's about a 80-20% split of what we've done. call it like near substantially complete. We've gotten quite a lot done for the town. There are a few challenges, like on parts of Beaman and on Century Drive. There's existing thermoplastic, which is probably, that's above and beyond epoxy. That's kind of the top of the line paint, that I know DOT uses it on some portions of their road. But we wouldn't want to spray epoxy on top of this thermoplastic. So those portions of Beaman, Century Drive, that stuff hasn't been touched yet. There's also some issues just with the general width of the road. The equipment that they use to install is pretty wide. One example is Fairbanks. The center line has always and forever been off-center. I know our office gets some complaints about it being off-center. We did have it laid out to put in a true center line, and the feedback I've gotten from the line striping companies is just that they can't do that center line with the width of the road. It's only a 26 foot right away, and the road is even smaller than that, as you can imagine. So it is tough, and the reason it was always off to a side was that's where the trucks could fit to get it in. So that's something that we're looking into right now. But yeah, I think we've done a good job going through that program. And I know you guys might have some questions.
The big question is, we did the epoxy paints last year.
Yeah.
How the paints looks, or how the striping looks this year?
In a lot of the areas, it looks very good. In some areas, it looks good. I think one challenge that we have as a community and our infrastructure is the gutter lines really hold a lot of water. We don't have necessarily, not all roads have drainage systems, and not all the gutter lines are true. Also, a lot of narrow roads, so a lot of the, particularly the edge lines, the white lines, or fog lines, often called, are very close to the edge of road. So I've just noticed that a lot of those that might be covered in pine needles, thinking Crescent over by like the Pine Arbor neighborhood, and Goodale, just it's a narrow road. Cars are kind of not necessarily able to always stay in their lane. They might be going over the striping. Some of those are maybe wearing a little bit more than anticipated. But I know you look at a wide open road with great drainage like Raymond Huntington Highway, and that was one of the first ones done, and it looks very good. So overall, there are some conditions where it's still looking great. There are some that it looks good, and I know it still has a reflective nature to it. Still outperforming water, but I know depending on the expectancy of the lifetime, I don't know if we'll achieve as much as we want in every location.
Yeah.
So, you had mentioned Fairbanks and any of the shorter roads, I should say, less wide roads. Did they not do those, or trying to come up with some alternative, or are they just gonna be off-center?
No, I'm working with them to get that done still.
But I mean, they're saying we can't do a true center because of our equipment. Are they gonna be done by hand, or are they gonna be done?
They have smaller equipment,
Okay,
so I think at this time of year, I don't know what we'll be able to get done truthfully for this year.
but we're not just gonna go ahead and say, well, that's the bigger equipment, and it's off-center, it's off-center. We're gonna make sure it's done right.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then my second question is, you had mentioned a couple of rows that have this polymer epoxy type stuff,
Thermoplastic.
thermopoxy. Are you gonna not do those rows? What kind of shape is that in?
They're in, Century Drive is not in great shape. It's a very wide, it by and large, it doesn't necessarily qualify for even really needing the striping, and the striping that there is good enough to serve its purpose. So it's something that we can look at how it looks after this winter, and we can just evaluate kind of what we want to do with it.
So it's got this thermopoxy paint on it, or what do you call it?
Thermoplastic.
Thermoplastic, mixing up terms. If it's got this thermoplastic paint on it, do we just have to wait until that's completely gone before we can do it again, or is that, what's the process on
Yeah,
those?
there's lots of different options. You can grind it out. Beeman is in good shape. I don't think that that's necessary. And the thermoplastic itself is in relatively good shape as well. So that one I think is fine for a couple more years.
When I was asking what's the shape of the roads, I meant not the
Striping.
physical pavement, I meant the line striping. Like on,
A Century Drive, it's in tough shape. So is the road though. So it's kind of comes into, that's something that I'll be looking at this winter and just trying to look at where dollars are and see if, what's the best next step for Century Drive.
But when this thermoplastic, I got it right, wears off, we can then go in with, asking, not telling, we can then go in with the epoxy paints that we're using, or do you,
Yes.
is it, we won't have to grind it, we won't have to do anything, we have to wait till needs to be done again?
We could do, yeah, we could go either way.
Okay, that's all I have.
Yes.
So what percentage of the town got epoxy this year and last year, right? We started last year with epoxy?
Yeah.
So last year epoxy and this year epoxy? Or if you don't know that answer, can we just have a list of what was done last year for streets and what was done this year for streets with epoxy?
These numbers come out to 470,000 plus or minus out of, I believe the final number is, and it's we have numbers, but I mean, everything changes with intersections.
Yeah.
A lot of the numbers we have are for the full stretches. But it's somewhere in the range of 550 to 580,000. So we've done majority of the town. There is enough remaining in the money that's been appropriated to finish the rest of the town in epoxy, if that's how we wish to proceed.
So yeah, if you could just I'm sure you have a list of what was done last year epoxy.
Yeah.
And what was done this year epoxy.
Yeah.
And then I guess what was done with the water base. If we could just, I'd like to see a copy of that list.
Sure.
Do you still think, when, I think, earlier DPW director, when he came in, so the epoxy paint will last for 5 years. Do you still think it is is it beneficial to do the epoxy, or can we, in moving forward, maybe next year or the following year, or whenever,
I
do
do
we need
think,
to?
but I think maybe a little more situational consideration, just with some of these drainage issues, and, again, I did at least, look at condition of the road and try to take in and do some good sound judgment with there, but, just looking at, some of the issues with drainage, if we are seeing signs of wearing because of puddling, we shouldn't go back and epoxy a street that has puddling and we're losing striping because of puddling. There's some spots that come to mind.
So they say epoxy that is in puddling areas won't have the same
Last long.
life.
That's what I'm seeing.
Okay. So I guess since most of the town's done with epoxy now, we're gonna learn how long it actually lasts. And, because it's more than twice as much, right? Water-based to epoxy?
Yeah, it's gonna last longer, it's gonna keep its reflectivity
Yeah,
longer, which is safer.
Cost-wise is
Is
more
it
money.
Is it three times the cost of water-based? Do you remember?
So the most recent one that we've done was 6.5 cents for water and 38.9 for epoxy. Epoxy jumped more so percentage-wise compared to last year. So there's a bigger jump
Six
And
times.
that's
per linear foot.
the applied price,
Yes,
so it's
that's
5 times as expensive, and we're expecting it to last 5 times longer.
No, it's really, yeah,
6 times.
closer to 6 times.
Six.
Right, if it only lasts 5 years, is it really?
a lot of the savings as well is the prep work done by DPW. Our crew is with them when they're doing the work, police details. So more infrequent we're performing the work, there's also just fixed costs with each application on top of those prices with the vendor.
I think, in the future, we may have to revisit it.
But if we only get 2 or 3 years out of it, it's probably worth it just to stay with water-based. If we only get
Yeah,
a couple
it's
years out of
certainly- I
it.
think-
If we get 4 or 5, it's probably still worth it.
Yeah, I
But if
think
we're only getting 3, I don't think, we'll have to watch it. Now we know what streets have done,
Yep.
and we can get an idea of how long they stay.
yeah, I can get you that list.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Next is update on a crosswalk, rapid flashing beacons.
Next slide, please, Nina. So the next one is, I believe in 2020, we received a grant for 8 rapid flashing beacons as part of the Winter Shared Streets program. And So those were ordered when I got here. I think they arrived in December. And I've been struggling to get somebody to come in and perform that work. The contractor that had previously been lined up, we had some issues getting him in town, and I've reached out to others to get that work done. It also has recently been put forward to me that in the grant, it actually stipulated that the work was going to be done by the Department of Public Works.
Excuse me 1 second. I don't know, in the chat on the Zoom, it says, can anyone hear anything? Is this normal? It's my first meeting. This is somebody posted that. I don't know if they're not able to hear
When I
our
was
meeting.
walking in, I could not hear, but I thought it was my phone,
Okay.
because it started to work when I sat down.
Okay.
You want to say?
Can they reply back to ask?
I asked if
Just tell
it's- It's all set.
She can
Okay.
hear now.
It's all set, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sure. So what was put forward in the grant was, which we ended up getting 49,600. 25,600 was for the units themselves, 25,600, and the remaining, the 24,000, was for an electrician to have these hardwired. Just from a personal recommendation, these are more commonly done as solar installations. And I'd like to recommend that we do move forward with solar. I do think that there was some previous discussions and the wish was to have them hardwired, so I don't know all of those discussions. But with that, the amount of the grant, and if we're gonna have these hardwired, the grant really doesn't cover, the grant does not cover the installation in either scenario. But I think the cleanest, the easiest installation, the less impactful to the surrounding area, and this is all on Crescent Street and Goodale, kind of within the school zone, if you will, is to buy solar adapters. We can have those and do a conversion on the infrastructure that we have and get those poles ready to go. And with the solar, there's no trenching that's needed. There was a quote from the electrician, it was very vague. It just said that a certain amount per drop. There's no talk about distance, how it was, what it was going to be. On this slide, here the middle slide is actually an installation in Stowe, and that's what you'll see for a direct drop where you're going straight from a utility pole right to the beacon itself. With that, you're going to have wires. These installations, they'll be on both sides of the street. Obviously, the overhead is on one side of the street. So we're gonna have wires going across the street, coming down. We're gonna have to put up new poles, and once you're going across the street, you're gonna have guy wires to support those poles now that they're at 90-degree angles. You're really getting into quite a lot of work doing the direct connect. The other option, if you were to do trenching, to have it directly connected to the grid, you're gonna have to trench across the street, and you're gonna have to do that 4 times. So I'm coming to you, I would like to move forward, or I'd like to request that you consider doing the solar conversion. I know it's previously been brought up that we received RAP funding from Mass DOT, which can be used for improvements to traffic signals, and we could use any deficit that remains from this to get this additional work done. So overall, we'll have the money kind of no matter what direction we go, but I really do believe that the solar is the less impactful to the area, whether it's trenching or overhead wires that are just there that are subject to tree branches coming down. I've been on that road, I see logging trucks go down that road. There's some big vehicles that go down Crescent Street. So,
So we're gonna put the ones to the right.
yes, and I know there was potentially concern about the batteries for the old units, and this is a busy slide, so my apologies.
So the
but
first one is what we have.
on the
something
left, yeah.
We
it's-
have now.
Yeah, it's a little sign that's on
No,
half a street pole.
right.
With a solar panel. What we're putting in is gonna be similar to the solar installation
They
on the
push
right
it.
side.
Bright yellow strobes
Yep.
blink, not just look. So yeah, if the solar works, I'm all for the solar instead of those wires, that crazy wire system.
So,
Okay.
if I may,
See want to go
the
first.
reason, go ahead.
Because-
I was just gonna ask, the ones that are actually, your next slide, the ones that we installed by the school are solar, right?
Yes.
So I guess my question is, I don't understand the question before the board because we did install solar. So are you now asking if we should install solar or wired? Because
No, the new one.
The
The grant-
5 more.
The grant is for AC wire. It's just a direct connect to the grid. We bought non-solar. That's what is in the grant.
Okay.
My understanding is there might have been an issue with some batteries on these. I guess I'm just pointing out, we were buying a much better product.
If I can ask my question, it'll kind of address both of these. So, we got these a couple of years ago. I was pushing for these, and they don't work. I mean, they work, but they're junk. Your predecessor said you gotta have hardwired ones because of the tree coverage, and they're not getting enough sun, and basically said, we need to buy these hardwired ones. If we can have it solar, I'm with Chris, if we can have it solar and it's actually gonna work, and it's gonna work the same as the hardwired ones, I think this board would've went with that right off the get-go. It's just that we were told that the solar, due to the location, isn't, and not by you, by your predecessor, is not gonna work. And that's why he recommended, and we agreed to go with the hardwired ones.
Yeah, no,
but it was more than that. It was the maintenance. DPW would have to be out there cleaning off the solar. Like there was a lot of different things, right? That was not,
But
that was preventing it. So this area, you'd have to actively, so it's snowing, you have to make sure this is cleared off daily so that it works.
No.
How is a solar
So-
thing gonna work
They
non,
don't go out and clean them off every snowstorm.
but that
It
was,
melts, the sun, once the sun
it'll
comes
take
out.
care of itself.
Yeah, once the sun comes out, they'll melt
but
right.
I thought that was part of why.
I don't recall
I
that.
don't remember that.
I don't remember.
I remember we were told with the tree coverage and the amount of sun that we get in that area, that solar is not gonna work. Looking at the two, what we have and what we're gonna get, you've got a toy flashing signal versus a real one. And for me, if you're telling us that we can do this with the solar installation and they're gonna work the same as if they were hardwired, I'm all for it.
Okay.
Let's ask the company. I mean, I think they'll tell us that if what's Pat saying is right. If there's too much shade, ask them what they think.
Oh, no, I mean, this one on Crescent, I mean, it's in the shade now.
And
You
it's
can see in the
working.
picture, it's completely in the shade when I took this photo in the afternoon. It's worked great since I got here. It's bright as can be. I think the battery that you're getting with this unit, is a rechargeable battery, obviously because it has to work at night and there's no sun at night. So the battery capacity on what we have now versus what we will have, there's a big difference. I would just highly recommend this. And as far as the snow, there are no leaves in the winter, so it's gonna get that sunlight. I know half of them will be in the shade during the summer for a larger portion of the day. They'll get morning sun, but in the winter, any snow that happens to stick on it will melt in short order, just because the leaves are gone and the snow will get there.
And just to add to Pat, I think we thought we were gonna get the ones over to the right. We thought we were getting the better, when these were installed, we were all under the impression
Yes.
that we were getting these to the right, but then these were brought in. But the ones over to the right here
Yeah.
are the ones we've always wanted.
We are getting, that's what we're getting.
Yes.
It's just that they are hardwired versus not solar. So
And
we
you
already
have to get a
those.
conversion to make them solar.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of an upgrade to the electrical box and the solar panel top.
If the company and you say it works, as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah, no.
go with solar.
Yeah, whatever works.
Mr. Chairman, through you, just to add one additional point here, because I know I have provided the board with the past grant application, and it specifically says AC, hardwired units. I did check with MassDOT about if we convert this to solar, is there gonna be any issue, and no issue whatsoever.
Okay, good.
And where will we change, where are these going again? What are the,
There are
Getting-
3 on Crescent Street, I guess, between Goodale and the elementary school. And that's one of them. And then, so if you recognize this intersection.
Yeah.
And then at the next 2 crossings down, there are 2 more crosswalks at
Yeah.
those 2. And if you keep going beyond the high school, the middle school,
The
high
other way.
school, you get to that one, that's already done. There's one other thing to note, in the picture on the left, you can see that school speed limit, when flashing. where this installation has to go, it's gonna be blocking that, so we will have to move that. I'm gonna get a price, because looking at it, the W in Win and the F and L in flashing are nearly gone. So I'm gonna see if I can also, because we're gonna have to move that.
No, I
Could just
think-
be time for an upgrade, and it would be under the wrap funding, so that's something else. But that's just another obstacle to getting these installed that we've been seeing.
I have a question. It's not part of this, so I don't expect you to have an answer. I know we had brought up prior, is there one going over by the library? Cause I know there's been tons of talk about it, I don't know where it sits, but I know there's been issues with both sides for the crosswalk. A sign was taken down, or we can't put it up because of something,
So my understanding is, so, let's just say this one on the left
yeah.
would be then moved to the library. That's my understanding of the plan.
Okay.
And then down the road, I think if we get some more money somewhere, or another grant, we can upgrade. I think that's good that we're reusing these. But then if we get a grant in the future, we can upgrade some of the other ones.
Yes.
So when do you, moving forward with solar, when do you anticipate you'll be able to have these completed?
Spring. It's 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks for the solar conversion.
Okay.
So, but I will send that email tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kevin? Nothing else? Thank you, Kevin.
Are there any stop signs?
Next item on the agenda, new business, holiday schedule. Jan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you, the request this evening to the Select Board is for the board to consider closing Town Hall on the Friday after Thanksgiving. So I conducted an informal straw poll with staff to see what their intentions were, and the large majority of folks intended to take the day off. I understand that there has been in the past somewhat of a skeleton crew in the building. Not all offices were open to the public. Just without it being a holiday, on Fridays, the assessor's office is closed to the public. Every day of the week, Board of Health and Building Department close midday. So the request is to allow staff to use their earned time off, so this isn't an additional paid holiday, and to close the building to the public for folks that don't want to use their time and they would like to come in and work, have them work here in the building. I also talked to some neighboring communities just to kind of get a sense of what they were doing. It was a little bit difficult because most town halls are closed on Fridays, period. But I can say that Sterling is not closed on Fridays, and for the Thanksgiving holiday, the town is closing the town hall and paying employees for the full day on Wednesday at midday, and on Friday, they're closing the town hall and allowing folks to use earned time. In Holden, the town hall is closed for the Friday after Thanksgiving, and they have a work from home policy in Holden, so those folks that don't want to use earned time can work from home. In Berlin, they run a light crew anyways on Fridays, so they're going to be in a skeleton crew status. And Clinton is the one other nearby community that is open on Fridays, and they are running with a skeleton crew with some offices being closed.
Question? What do you think?
I don't know, I mean, it's just a change. We're just gonna, I think we need to look at it for the future. Because this is a day that people may have off from work that might come to the town hall to do work.
So,
I mean, I think it's something we can look at in the future. I mean, I don't mind people taking days off, but I think it's always been a skeleton crew in the past, right?
So in the past, you would have the treasurer collector's office would be open. The assessor's office was closed.
Correct.
The accountant's office, I just found out today, I thought it was open, was closed. The
Town clerk?
town clerk, it depended. So it depends on the year, whether they were open or closed. And the building department and Board of Health were open just for the half day. and the town administrator was here.
Yeah, any questions?
I personally don't have a problem with Friday. But I also work in a different field. I give all of my employees Friday off. It's only for emergencies that I expect them to be on call. I think we recently voted to actually take away hours from, I think, the town administrator, not the clerk office, from running late because they just weren't receiving any foot action. Most people are doing things online, so I mean, a skeleton crew just to have someone in the building doesn't make sense. My only concern is what if there's only one person in this building and someone enters it? I don't know if I feel comfortable with that.
So, just to be clear where I stand on this, you know my position on closing on Friday, but if the board does not vote to close the building on Friday, I don't think it's fair to have some offices open and some offices closed. So I will be forcing in at least one person in every office that's normally open on Friday, so not the assessors. So, you know, I'm gonna pick on the accountants here. Sorry, Leslie, if you're watching, but they're usually off because they're not a public-facing department. But if we're gonna be open, then somebody's gonna be there.
Okay, and I've never personally come to the town hall the day after
What
Thanksgiving.
about the Black Friday sales in town hall?
So I just don't want it to be one person in one office and no one else around all day till the following Monday when someone shows up here and.
I just think we have to look at it, we have a personnel policy. I think we have to look at the bigger picture here, not, what if another holiday's on a Thursday, and then they all say we wanna take the Friday after the Christmas is on a Thursday, and they wanna take the Friday after Christmas off. I mean, we need to have instead of just, they all say we all want the day off, so we close the town hall. It should be more structured than just this happening.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate Mr. Rucco's point, but I don't know why this has to do with the personnel policy. This is not giving anybody a holiday. This is allowing folks to use their earned time.
Right, but what if the next one is the holidays on a Thursday and they all want to take the Friday off? Do we look at this situation again? Again, this is last minute, it's a week from now, so I just think it's a bigger issue that we have to look at.
Pat?
I understand where Chris is coming from. I would have really preferred this 2 months ago to come before us, but I don't have an issue with allowing people to use their time, and we're not paying them extra. I have a problem with closing.
Yeah, I don't either, but we have a small staff. What if they all want to take the next time off? I'm just saying we have to look at it in the future to figure out some type of rule on this, I believe if everybody has to take a day off, somebody would have to be denied in a normal day, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm suggesting, that
Yeah.
if the board does not close, then nobody, and including other departments as well that we're planning to not be public-facing that normally would. So people will be denied time,
So the building department is usually opened on Friday till
midday.
midday. They're not gonna open on Friday? Either? They're gonna have the option to take the day off?
The building department?
Yeah.
Correct. So the building department, they have said that, you know, either they would, you know, you have two folks, well, one person, the building commissioner, doesn't work Fridays. You have two other folks that work in that office. One person said she wasn't sure what she would want to do, whether she would want to come in the building and get caught up on things with the building being closed, or if she wanted to use her time off. So,
Yeah, I'm just saying, again, that's another department that, you know, a builder or somebody working on their house. I was in here yesterday and somebody came a little late and he needed his building permit. It was in the box that's in the building, you know, maybe that could be a Friday, they have that day off, they could come in and get it. I let him in, he took his building permit and he left, but, I noticed there's a stack in there, so, that's, you know, that's another thing, that's another department that people could say, geez, that's the day I have off, so I can go to town hall, but, again, we can look at this in the future, but it's a week from now, so, a little less than a week, a little more than a week.
Maybe next time and all, you know, give us a, like Pat said, you know, little ahead of time.
I mean, this should definitely be, I understand where Chris is coming from. Oh, if Christmas falls on a Thursday, the Friday after Thanksgiving is traditionally a day where
Shopping.
most people are taking the day off. I mean, I know we're doing it.
All state buildings are open on that Friday and all.
Understood,
Yeah.
but across the board, a lot of people are on vacation. That's a special day because it's always that day, whereas the other days may move. Whatever we vote, we certainly need to look at implementing a policy moving forward.
Mark?
Well, has it, so everybody up until yesterday who works here was under the impression the building was open. Is that the situation that we're, and now
Including the public.
there's a lot of people asking for the day off, so it's seeming like we're gonna have a really short staff, so the other option is to just say building is closed, people have the choice of whether they wanna come in, use time and not come in, or come in and work and just be in a closed building.
So at the department head meeting, which was 2 weeks, maybe, it was after your last select board meeting, but in between the two meetings, that's when I asked the question of what was the intent and started to get some of the history. Not every office has been open the day after Thanksgiving. It was a mixed bag of what you would get. I don't think that's fair.
To the public or to the people?
All of the above. I don't think it's fair to the people that work here, that some get it off and some don't. I don't think it's fair for the people who come in expecting to hit multiple offices and only 50% of them are open that they're coming to.
In the
And
past, the people that didn't come in, was it a holiday to them, or were they taking vacation time?
It's, it would always be, we're only discussing using your earned time.
Okay.
Or if you don't earn time, that you can either come in and work because you don't have benefits, you can come in and work, or you're in an unpaid status.
So you're saying in the past, the town clerk's office was a normal, I'm just gonna say the town clerk, was a normal Friday open, and they all took the day and they closed it?
I can only tell you what I've heard.
Okay.
That,
I know the
There's a
ones that
mix.
aren't open that day, the ones that are not open that
Yeah,
day,
town-
I understand.
town clerk currently, I can say currently, you have, the assistant town clerk does not work Fridays, so you only have one staff member
Yeah.
present. So
No, I'm just
she is
saying-
requesting, so for example, the town clerk is requesting to take that day off.
Go ahead.
So my only thought on this is I'm wondering from awareness, and I'm newer to the board, maybe the board wasn't aware what offices were open or were closed the day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but on the whole, if I have to say, on the whole, the town, we never close the town hall day after Thanksgiving. But, some office might have been open, some
There were
office might have
skeleton
been
crews in the
closed, yeah.
past, that's what we understood.
So now, all the town office, all are taking their personal time, but we are also going to say, yes, the town hall is closed. That never happened. So last 6 years, 7 years. Yes, Pat, is that the right?
Yeah,
He's-
but I don't know if individual offices that would
Right.
normally be open, it never made it to our level. If an individual
Yeah.
office, we were using the town clerk. If the town clerk's office was closed 2 years ago, the day after Thanksgiving, yet.
We don't know.
Yet I
We
don't
didn't
know,
know.
we don't.
It was
that never made-
skeleton, our understanding was it was a skeleton crew. That was what.
But
But you're saying that somebody could have,
is a skeleton crew, it never,
It's a skeleton
we were
crew,
never
Nancy.
informed if that skeleton crew meant every office has at least one, that's normally open, has at least one
we
person.
don't know
or
the
not.
answer, so I
We don't
guess
know.
again, this is short notice, so I think we let them all take the day off. We publicize to the public
Yes, Mark.
and tell the public that we're closed. So if
What-
you had plans to come here.
What are non-town hall business or offices doing? Like, it's not really our thing, but the light plant, the water district, DPW.
So it depends. So I don't know what I don't know what municipal light plant and municipal
Water.
water are doing.
Okay.
The library is open, the senior center is closed. You have folks covered by collective bargaining agreements in police, fire, and DPW. The folks that aren't covered by a collective bargaining agreement in DPW are planning to take the day off, and not be open to the public. The Fire department, I don't believe she works Friday. The non-union personnel does not work Friday. And I'm not sure about police.
So I'll make a motion to go with the plan as presented for the day after Thanksgiving.
What was the plan? What was the plan?
To close the building.
To close the building.
Close
And
the
let people
building.
take their time or come in?
People can take paid time off, or they can come in, but it's not gonna be open to the public.
I said, you already
I
said.
second.
The only thing I would say at that, you just mentioned, what if the library employees now all say that, geez, we'd like to take the day off too and close?
Well, then that would be between the library trustees, right? And the,
Well,
And
it's
the
still-
library.
It's still a town building, I know, but,
but,
I mean,
Well,
But we
Do-
can't tell the library when to open or close, that's the trustees.
Correct.
So we're not
Well-
managing those people.
we're setting an example. Do we want to,
Yeah.
do we want to
Yeah.
say?
but they're
setting an
employees of
example.
the town, they're still employees of the town.
I think we need to do a comprehensive plan moving forward, obviously, not just this building,
moment.
but let's look town-wide at all of the people that fall under the town government side of the house. Obviously, the schools do their own thing, they're closed.
This-
We need to have a,
But in regards to the senior center,
Yeah, that's what my question
do they take a day off, or are they closed without, not using time?
so you have 2 employees there. I believe only one is benefited, so she was planning to use time.
Are they, would there normally be something going on Friday? I know they have sort of.
Yes.
a little-
A lot going on Fridays.
So
And
maybe
then-
also, just in the future, I know you're coming into this newer too, because you haven't been here long. I don't know the policy of requesting time off, usually it's done X number of days, or weeks so that way we can better plan or know, or.
Well,
And Mr. Chairman, through you, when you bring up the personnel bylaw, that's where that actually, it says your leave must be approved, but there's not like a time period for non-emergency requests. So I would like some more,
So that's a little hard.
But it probably says your time needs to be approved, but we have to weigh,
it
when we
does.
approve, we have to weigh the needs for the town.
It does, but
Before we approve or disapprove a day.
If we could put in some kind of language to say at minimum, X number of weeks' notice.
Okay.
and
Who approves the time off for the senior center? You,
So
at this time?
so the personnel or the building?
The personnel as well as the building, So this is the day after Thanksgiving.
So
Some of the seniors might want to go to the senior center, right?
So, I approve the time for the director. And then the building, well, I think that's a bigger conversation.
Yeah, I got it.
Are there any meals served at the senior center that people are gonna be expecting and not having on Friday?
She's taking care of making sure all the meals, there's an alternative.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an alternative to have more shelf-stable, meals.
Or
Yeah.
Meals on Wheels from someplace else or something like that?
It's not from someplace else.
Oh,
It's just given in advance and doesn't, from what my understanding, it doesn't have
Okay.
the same expiration.
all right, so can we just say that we'll, if we're gonna make the motion for this year, okay, town, office is closed, but not necessarily next year, this isn't the policy, and just make people understand that we're gonna revisit this?
It's for this year, I think the motion.
For this
is
year? Well, yeah.
It's just-
yeah, the motion is
Only,
just
only for this year.
No, I know
This
that's what
year.
our motion is, but for the people that are getting the day off, they don't wanna start making the assumption that it's gonna be next year too, we have to revisit.
yeah, that's, that's,
Well, and through you again, Mr. Chairman, I think, we're coming to it in the agenda that we have the consider approving goals and objectives for the town administrator and select board, and we're gonna be looking at policies. So, maybe this is something that can be one of the earlier ones that the select board can work on, is coming up with something for future.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda, consider approving the following individuals as an alternate snowplow drivers effective December 1, 2022 until May 1st, 2023 at an hourly rate of $20.71 pending completion of all pre-approval requirements. Colin McGee, Ethan Boynton.
So moved.
Second,
We have a motion and second.
Do you have something?
I didn't know if I was supposed to.
Oh,
No, motion is second.
any further questions? All in favor?
Did he come up? Did he come up? Is there something we should
Just,
know?
just say something about this one. The plow drivers. If you have, do you have any
I don't have any
questions?
questions, but I didn't know if he was gonna bring
He
something.
said if we had any issues.
No, he realized we didn't have any questions, so he walked away.
Do you have any questions?
No, I guess the only question, are you good now with these extra few people? You think you have enough staff to do what you need?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There'll be one more forthcoming to a future meeting. It didn't make it to this packet.
okay.
Oppose? Hearing none, motion carries.
There's a letter, isn't
Acknowledge donations to the Council of Aging from July 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2022, in the amount of $1,700 from local residents.
Make a motion to approve the donations in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose? Motion carries. Acknowledge donations to the Recreation Revolving Account from Community Club in the amount of $2,368.
Make a motion to accept the donations in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion?
Just so the public knows, this is, the community club ran the basket raffle and the scarecrow contest at the Fall Fest, and this is what was raised by that, the net that they raised, and is obviously going to the recreation fund.
So then, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is consider approving goals and objectives for the town administrator as well as select board. So the select board met on November 5th at the senior center, and we discussed, thank you for the town residents sending in all the goals and for the town admin as well as the select board. So the select board voted several goals for the town administrator as well as for the select board. I will turn it to town admin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, thank you all for your work on a Saturday. I think it was a really productive session. So essentially, we've taken the draft goals and objectives that I proposed to the select board and incorporated your suggestions and additions, and the same for the goals and objectives for the select board. So, I'm not gonna read this all out loud. Of course, anybody that's interested in it is welcome to have a copy, but I'm just gonna go through the high points, so the goals that we talked about, and for the public to understand that each of these broad goals has much more specific objectives outlined under them, are to improve town infrastructure, increase transparency and communications, recruit, retain, educate, and engage town staff, generate new revenue sources, decreasing burden on taxpayers and improve efficiencies, and improve health and safety of West Boylston residents. And then for the select board, ensure policies and bylaws are current and comprehensive, increase public participation in local government, and develop long-term strategic plan for West Boylston municipal properties. And I think, so the public also understands there's a nice cohesiveness and marriage between the goals and objectives that you've outlined for yourself and that have been outlined for myself, and that a lot of these are common and we'll be working together over the next year and maybe years to get some of these completed.
Do we need vote on this?
You do need to vote to adopt them as.
So is there a place on the town's website that there's a link just to not going to our agenda, that they can read all of these? Because there's, under each one of those, there's like A to G, there's all kinds of, so is there somewhere somebody wants to?
If
If they can see it, we can put it on the website so they can
Sure,
see
I
it?
think that after you vote, we can upload these to the website, absolutely. We can upload the goals and objectives for the town administrator to the town administrator's page in that left-hand side. I'll make a link for that, and then same on the select board page.
And then if you figured out the email thing, maybe you can send it out to the people that have asked for an email from the town administrator or the board of selectmen.
So interestingly, remember, if you remember that discussion, the town administrator's blog, right? And I said, so it's really just a news, it's a
mail list.
news, and it's not really a blog. So I found it, I figured it out.
It's just
Got
those
it.
people, most of those people asked to get information, so I think when we have information like this, we
Yep.
send it out.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I just would say, so some of these, I love the idea of being transparent and sending it out, but I think part of what the wording should say, some of these are things we can immediately address, some of these are goals that will branch over the next maybe 2 years. These aren't gonna happen in the next 9 months, 6, I don't even know how many months you've been here, so whatever the X number of months left. So I just think when sending, have wording on it, like some are immediate and some are long-term work towards goals.
Yeah, and I think that's not unusual to any of our goals.
Mm-hmm.
These are our goals for this year. If we don't finish them completely, it could be a goal for next year, or we could say we finished 80% of it, and we're putting some stuff off for the future. It may not be a goal in the future.
So,
We've done that many times.
along those lines, we've always had goals. Every year, we might have missed a year, but this is not something new. What's new this year is the town administrator's contract specifically addresses her meeting these goals. And
Yes.
I'm speaking for me, and I think the rest of the board, we don't, at least I personally don't expect to say, oh, you've only got 30% of this done, so we're only gonna give you 30% of the merit raise. To me, this is not, although it is tied to your contract, this is not, you have to finish this in this contract year, and.
You have to finish all of them 100% to get. any
Right,
of
so
your-
I want to say that out loud and to the public, because it is now part of your contract.
So basically you are saying,
Which is
do your level best?
Well, and we talked about it at the goals meeting.
Right,
Some of the wording was, there's really no way we can get an end to some of these.
Correct.
But it's just, yeah, I agree with you. You can't expect 100%, but some of it you could, some of it can.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Well, and some of it's ongoing anyways.
yeah, it's gonna maybe make some rules for the future.
I'll make a motion to
Motion.
approve both goals, both
Second.
sets of goals.
I second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Old business, winter parking ban.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This was on our last agenda, and we had pushed it off to this meeting so that you could have some dialogue with the DPW director, Mr. Duffy. I believe that the conversation was about shrinking or narrowing the time span. He's not here tonight, but Chief Minich had no objections to any decision by this board to reduce the length of time that we have a winter parking ban active.
You brought it up last time.
Yeah, so I mean, because it never snows before November
Yeah.
15th.
Yeah, but you said it. It's your fault.
And it snowed.
But
snow.
It snowed, but there were no trucks out sanding or anything, because it was a light snow. I really wanted the input from you and the chief as to, first off, I don't think we actually have an in-writing parking ban, is that correct? It's just what we put out. So we don't have a written policy on it, but I also don't think it's necessary to tell residents, starting November 15th, you can't park in front of your house. And you can't park in front of your house on April 15th because it goes to April 30th. Because I think it can be a much more sensible thing that's, if there's snow in if it's December 1st, or whatever date we decide, in the dead of winter, okay, and then those other times, if there's snow in the forecast, so kind of, what are your thoughts?
And so this is just what I had brought up last year, and again, I came from a more urban community with much more dependent on street parking. But what that community would always do would kind of just forecast once you got to around mid-November and see what it looked like, because especially for the Thanksgiving holiday, you might have people coming, and then all of a sudden it's Wednesday and town hall's closed, and you're all of a sudden worried, oh my God, can I park on this? Can I park on the street? Can I not? And one person in the house might say, oh, it's no problem, but somebody might be concerned about it. So just what we did as a community, we would just look at the forecast, see if there was any concern, because there could be snow on the ground this time of year, and then you'd say, no, parking ban is here November 15th. But I think it makes sense to kind of review what the forecast looks like, and you can make a determination on how that might impact the holiday. So that's what I had brought up last year for your consideration.
So,
What is the hard
we,
date?
right, I mean, there's nowhere where we can direct, as far as I know, where we can direct the residents of this town except for, oh, the parking ban is in effect. We don't have a parking ban, do we?
So your vote would be to basically, to put in place the parking ban.
That doesn't currently exist.
Right, but I mean, we've never taken a vote on this in the past, we've just announced it.
Oh, you haven't?
No,
No.
I see.
no, this is just been announced.
Oh.
And, so,
What do you
I
mean?
think we make it the 15th. I'm looking at other towns just quickly. It says whenever accumulating snow is in the forecast. So we say the 15th, but if it doesn't snow till the middle of December, there's no parking ban.
but we've always announced the parking ban is in effect November 15th.
And then we talked about it, and the chief, I
And it's
believe,
it's
said,
an overnight parking ban on November 15th, and then it's the announcement that gets made. And then if there is snow in the forecast, you can't park on the street during the day either.
yeah, so, I mean, we could say the 15th. Or, and, the 15th, it starts whenever there's accumulating snow.
But do we want to have, so if we don't have snow in the forecast and it's January 18th, can I park in the street overnight?
We should also add to it accumulated snow. Like if there's been a ton of snow and not that we don't plow as wide as we can, but if it's a narrow road anyways, still don't park on the side of the road.
I think we clearly need to set a policy as well on this. This is not something, I mean, right now, we've just made an announcement. We need to develop a no kidding policy but for
Sounds like
now.
a future agenda item.
Yeah, but for now, I'll make a motion that the parking ban go in overnight street parking ban go into effect December 1st, while keeping all of the other language about the snow accumulation that we've always put out. And then we'll worry about when it's gonna end at a later, so that's the end of my motion.
So the parking ban goes on the 1st,
December 1st.
and if it snows,
But we're gonna keep the language, if there's snow in the forecast, you can't park in the street. So,
Even if it's before the first?
correct. I mean, if we're gonna get a foot of snow on the
Friday.
Friday after Thanksgiving, because everybody is off,
Don't start.
we can't be parking in the street. I mean, that's
That's why in the past it was the 15th with that sentence. That's when the chief came a couple of years ago,
But-
that's what he talked about.
but it was the 15th, it was an overnight parking ban. But like Kevin said, you're having a house full of people and people sleeping over for Thanksgiving, and it's scheduled to be 48 degrees on the Friday after Thanksgiving, why can't they park in the street?
I'm okay with anything as long as the residents understand
Yeah.
exactly what it
It's
means and
confusing.
when they can and can't park, and then we can look at, for the future, a
So-
more tighter
And
policy that people can read.
In the past, what we've done is we've made an announcement. November 15th to April 30th, there is a parking ban, an overnight parking ban. During the daytime, anytime that there is snow on the ground or a forecast for snow on the ground, you also cannot park in the street. I want to keep all of that language that we've always put out for now, but as my motion said, let's start it on December 1st. And
So that takes care of the Thanksgiving problem.
yes.
Okay.
And then future agenda item, we'll look at
The
a
closing
winter
date.
street parking ban.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
second.
We have a motion and second. Is there any further discussion?
That's gonna be our rule now, but when I punch in West Boylston parking ban, the first thing that comes up is the winter parking ban is in effect beginning November 15th at midnight through April 30th. There is no overnight parking on the streets or daytime parking that may impede snow removal efforts. That's what when you search winter parking ban in West Boylston, that's what comes up.
Well, let's just
But,
make
but
that.
that's never been voted on, that's just
But
there.
it's,
Well, let's just make it
I
that
don't know if it's,
exact.
I don't know
I
if
want
it's,
to
I
keep
don't know
that
if it's,
exact same language, but
But just
change
change
that
December
date to
first.
December 1st.
December 1st.
Screenshot that, send it to.
Okay. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the
Add
agenda,
that to the goal list.
PS Street Heavy Commercial Vehicle Exclusion. Town Administrator,
and just for the town administrator, there is something on the webpage that's almost a page and a half about winter parking, Jan, you can look at.
Okay, we'll
And
change
see,
the date.
That comes out from November 2nd, 2020, when you search the town's website.
Okay.
And it's a page plus of information about parking.
Is that the one that's linked from the police department?
It just says home, and then it says Public Works.
Public Works, DPW.
So there's a lot of information, a lot of bullet
Was
points.
part of that?
Talks about trash, it talks about everything, so.
All done. Go ahead.
Okay, so Pierce Street Heavy Commercial Vehicle Exclusion, I know that this kind of discussion has been before the board for some time. So, just, you know, a recap that the request came, I think almost maybe several years ago for the town to explore a heavy commercial vehicle exclusion on Pierce Street. And the town did have a traffic study completed as part of that through CMRPC. And because the alternate route is through, so let me just step back for a second. So Mass DOT would be the entity that would approve a truck exclusion. However, because the alternate route is through an adjacent community, in order for Mass DOT to approve a truck exclusion, we need a letter of approval, permission, whatever you may call it, from that adjacent community. The adjacent community here is the city of Worcester. So Jim Purcell had some conversations, as well as Kevin, with the city of Worcester, and I know Kevin's here to speak in a little bit more detail. He's been a bit more involved in this than I have. But the city of Worcester said essentially that they will consider looking at whether or not they would give us this letter of permission to accompany the application to Mass DOT. But in order to consider giving us this letter, they were going to charge the town $15,700 to do so. Essentially, that we would have to pay for the data collection and data assessment in order for the city to make a determination on that.
Did you just say they would do it if we
No.
pay the 15,000, or they want to do the study first?
No, so we can pay, and Kevin's had some more dialogue with folks there in the city. We can pay in order for them to consider it,
Okay, all right.
$15,700 for them to consider it, and so.
I can add just a little bit more information. So, looking at the proposal, it's composed of first task, data collection, and while we had data collection kind of right at Pierce Street and some of the immediate surrounding areas, they're looking for data collection that they could do for a public hearing at some of the locations along our alternate route, is what they're looking for. So they're looking for some of the traffic information along that route in Worcester itself. And then doing the follow-up data assessment so that they have a better understanding of it, with a transportation engineer providing guidance and impacts, things of that nature. So that's what the 15.7 is composed of. So with that said, this would need to, before it can have approval from the city, they would have to have a public hearing, and just with discussions with our contacts at the Public Works in the city of Worcester, it would be a tough sell for the community for us to have a designated truck route cutting through this area. Portion of the area is residential houses as well. So that is one area that's going to be tough with getting support from the city and the abutters on what we're proposing.
I see some residents here this evening, and I did have a conversation with one of these residents, and she had stated that she was going to reach out to state representatives, state senators. I can say that I did receive an email from those folks who were basically going to the city of Worcester saying, Worcester, would you consider either waiving or reducing this charge. I don't have an answer, on that as of, at this point. But there was some legislative contact, made to see if with that, pressure or push, that they'd consider waiving the 15.7.
Sounds like even if they said, we'll do this study, why would the city of Worcester vote to allow a truck route that doesn't exist through their residential neighborhood? I wouldn't vote for the opposite. I don't think anybody here would. So, we're gonna do this study. To me, it seems like it's a foregone conclusion. The city of Worcester is gonna say, no, this is gonna adversely affect our residents, you can't do this. Because they're gonna be looking out for their residents' best interest. Am I missing something? I mean, is that kind of what you just said, without saying it?
Yes.
Yeah, well,
I don't think-
you're right. Every time we talk about something like this, we say, where are we moving the traffic to? If we put up a one-way street sign, we say, okay, and that's the same situation here. Even within our own town, we look at it sometimes and say, all this is gonna do is move it to the next street, or to the next neighborhood, or go through another. So the city of Worcester's gonna say, well, so the rerouting is bringing it through our neighborhoods?
You're not in a classroom, you don't have to raise your hand, Mark.
Mark, go
I
ahead.
don't interrupt because I'm a chronic interrupter. So I figure it's a better thing to do than to just start.
Go ahead, Mark.
And then he'll notice you.
Is it possible that the study will show that it almost doesn't impact them, like there's already a ton of traffic, trucks on there? Is this like Burnco Street Extension, is this what the route would be? The alternate route, people would come in Mountain Street and down Burnco Street Extension
Yeah, it would go
instead
down
of
that.
coming through,
Yes.
Pierce.
It would head them south down Shrewsbury Street into Worcester.
I mean, there's already a lot of truck traffic there. I mean, the trash trucks, all the Bunzel, all the other things on that road perhaps go that way anyways. Is it possible that the study would reveal just that there's already a lot of that traffic there? They'll find out that there'll be more, you know? Or maybe not significant change, you know?
But then they would still need to vote to say,
Yeah.
and we are gonna
But
support
if that was
this.
the argument about maybe why would they ever do this? Well, they might do this just because it doesn't make any difference. The study would just show them that it doesn't make any difference.
I agree with Pat. If it was the other way around, I don't care if they told us it's gonna be 4 more trucks through our truck area.
Then why
We
would they-
probably,
Then that was not very nice of them to ask us to pay 15 grand, and they've already decided that they're not gonna do it.
We don't know that.
we don't know that, but.
But if
Yeah.
anybody like you or Pam apparently are on board, then we already know that.
Well, I just think what if it was the opposite way, and they said, we're gonna reroute trucks through your town?
You say, hey, big bad wolf, we're the little tiny town over here.
So I don't know the answer. I don't know about spending $15,000 for a study to tell us.
That we're not gonna do
And
it.
CMRPC, they've already got a ton of traffic data. Can they supplement this and maybe make this cheaper?
I
And
don't think the data collection,
Not on the
At these
Worcester
Oh, that was
side, not on the
much
Worcester side,
Yeah.
it's only on the Pierce Street.
Yeah.
Mark, also correct me if I'm wrong, when the planning board gives the approval, any of those businesses in Hartwell Street,
Yeah.
one of the condition is, they have to go through
The
the
other way.
other way, not through the
So I'm just wondering if the stuff, like the trash, and they can't do it at certain times of day, and there's all those rules. I'm just
But-
wondering if they're gonna notice that it doesn't really, the people going down here are going against those rules anyhow, or something like that.
No,
and we could just enforce
these are all the
rules.
people, coming from 290, and they are just following the
Yeah, but they must
GPS.
be going to those places.
And GPS takes them to the Pierce Street. They
Yeah,
come in the
no,
Worcester Street and then they take it to the Pierce Street, but that's what the GPS says. So these are
Yeah,
all
but they
out
must
of the
be-
case.
The end destination must be on Hartwell Street, because there's
Yeah.
no shortcut
Yeah,
through Pierce Street to like Marlboro, you know?
yeah.
So and it's true, and people were supposed to tell, by the planning board, they're supposed to tell their truck traffic not to go through the.
No, but the
residential
planning
part of
board
town.
does
Yeah, I know, they're
ask
supposed
the,
to, but
businesses not to go
it's
through
also hard
this,
to do.
yeah.
I mean, what are you supposed to do when,
Yeah. But they are doing it. So you are here, you have anything to say? Yep, can you give the name?
We
for
don't do the sign-in sheet anymore?
You can come in and do,
Yeah,
you can
come in
step
and
up
sit
if
down.
you'd like in front of the mic and just identify yourself.
Emily Baxter, I guess.
I'm Emily Miller Braxton. I live at 95 Pierce Street.
Gary Braxton, 95 Pierce Street. Good evening.
So quick question to you. You did hear from, I reached out to 4 different offices. You did hear from
In Worcester.
somebody.
So, Mr. Chairman, through you, I received an email from both Representative O'Day's office and Senator Chandler's office asking for background. I believe that was yesterday or the day before, but this week I did hear from both Representative O'Day's office and Senator Chandler's office, and that they were going to be asking, the city of Worcester to either waive or reduce this $15,700.
Go ahead.
So that leads me to a question. So them asking for information and saying they're gonna take action, do they give you a time frame of when they were gonna, or not take action, they were going to ask?
They were going to advocate. I think that I can't speak for them or how quickly or if at all Worcester would respond, but it is possible that Worcester either reduces or waives this. I don't know that it's likely, because essentially if we don't pay for this work, right, then the city of
Somebody
Worcester
get-
would have to absorb it. And so why would the city of Worcester absorb the 15.7?
So the study has to be done for them to put the. for us to put
VHP, VHP, yes.
It's a requirement.
For them to,
For us to impose a,
no, for them
No.
to consider it.
Correct.
We'd
For them
have
to
to do
consider,
the
we
study
have
for
to do
the,
it.
for that, then it would go to their city council, it would go to their traffic department, and then they would have votes, and they would do studies, and then it would come back and they'd tell us if they, and they'd have this report from us.
So
That would be my guess
it's
how it's working.
illegal for them to just decide.
And then I just want to add what happens from there. So that's step one.
And then it doesn't work.
And then MassDOT has to approve it. But in order for MassDOT to consider it, we need the letter from Worcester saying it's not an issue. So MassDOT still has to approve this.
Okay,
Anything else?
anything else?
So the state's protocol for the heavy commercial vehicle exclusion, one of my other asks to the representatives and senators' offices was to look at that too. Mass Department of Transportation is ultimately making the call, but because Pierce Street is so close to the Worcester, West Boylston line, the trucks, as Raj said, they're coming through on their GPSs. I've actually asked several drivers how they wind up there. They're following their personal GPSs, the quickest route, which takes them down our residential street. Whether or not this goes through, whether or not Worcester approved it or not, the trucks ultimately are coming from Worcester, going into West Boylston, going through West Boylston, coming the other direction, going from West Boylston into Worcester. So that leaves us in a hard place.
I don't, got your hands up.
It was one finger this time. This one. How do they, I don't know how they would enforce the GPS change. Is there some sort of mapping feature that is imposed and the GPS doesn't do it anymore?
No.
So this possibly might not work, or would there be signs? And
If you get an official heavy commercial vehicle exclusion, which is state approved, and you've gone through the right channels and you have the official signs posted, then there is recourse. Residents can take pictures of trucks, the companies, the license plates, and if they are traveling on a street that, trucks over 2.5 or 5 tons or whatever the posting is for, if they're traveling on that street, then they can get a fine. And it can be sent into the state government. There's a website for that. As a, you know, residents can lodge a complaint, and if they have the information, they can fine the truck drivers, the companies, for traveling on the road. With non-official signs, we have no recourse. I mean, we can't do anything. So, yes, eventually it would get into the GPS systems. People can say this street is posted and trucks cannot go down this street. Really, they should be using a truck-specific
GPS.
Yes, not a passenger automobile.
If they use a truck, do you know, if they use a truck routing GPS, does it not send them that way?
It's a residential street, it's not made for 18-wheelers.
I'm just wondering if the truck GPSs already know, sort of make a distinction.
I don't think it's a truck GPS. I think it's the same GPS we all use. And
Well, there
I
is
don't
some-
know if down the road, maybe the GPS will catch up to it and tell trucks that they can't go down that street, but I don't know if we know that
There
answer.
are truck-specific GPS.
Yeah, there are truck systems. We have.
But I don't know if that updates, maybe if we restrict it, in 6 months, it will update and say,
It knows
that
the
road's-
traffic right now.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know,
So,
I don't know if they know the answer to that question.
No, I think that's a harder one. It's how the GPS infrastructure, whatever works.
If it takes 6 months, that's better than never.
Yeah.
If I may, just a couple of very quick comments. Someone did mention that Worcester would take votes in the best interest of their residents as it pertains to designated truck routes. We live on an undesignated truck route, but it's a truck route, and we're thinking about our best interests here. Now these trucks should not be going on the next neighboring street, also not designed for trucks either. But we're getting it all. It's 3, 4, 5 trucks an hour, anywhere from 15 to 25 trucks on a given day and night.
hold on, hold on.
Let him finish.
Sorry, go ahead, sir.
Well, that's about it. It's not a small thing, it's big, and it is no longer unusual to occasionally see, oh, there are 2 trucks on Pierce Street at the same time. Coming right
So-
after each other. It's not, you can be there for an hour and see nothing, and the next hour you see 5 or 6 of them.
So, Mark, can we modify that from Worcester to Pierce? Maybe an island or something
Sure.
to prevent the
Well,
trucks?
actually, I had a question about, do you?
I don't know
see-
what
No,
I
no.
absolutely can, but I don't know. It's hard to do. Do
Is-
you ever see, this is trying to get, the way the planning board has been controlling trucks
That's
now through the planning board when they are going to build and put the fleet in. Do you ever see the trash trucks on your street, except for collecting your trash, but the trash trucks that have the depot right around the corner? I think it's,
They cut through on non-trash days, yes.
but not on business in the town. They're doing their own thing and cutting through your street.
I don't know the trash trucks from where. but
Actually, I don't think we don't contract with them, right?
No.
Okay, so, well, then they're in violation of the rule that is in place for them, I believe.
Sometimes, not nearly as often as I see. I work from home. I look out the window and I don't see, there are trash trucks going by who are not collecting trash on the street. Not nearly as many as the 18-wheelers.
Just the ones going to deliver or pick up.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry? I didn't
The
understand.
18-wheelers that are going through your street to deliver to the town or wherever, to the industrial park or coming out of the industrial park.
I don't know
We
where
don't
they're
know where
going.
they're going or coming from, but they're cutting.
I want to assume that they're not just cutting through town to go someplace else, then they're, because I don't think it's a shortcut to anywhere except for there.
I don't know if it actually matters, though, they're just using it.
They
so.
are using it.
I think the rules are great, but with rules, you need enforcement, and that is not something, the planning board might have a
Well,
rule, but
the
you
only-
can't enforce it if the person who's coming in is coming in from out of state and doesn't know our planning board enforced a rule for that
Well,
business.
the only thing that the planning board could do, I know, I told you about the interrupting problem I have. The planning board could ask the
Business.
building inspector to talk to the company to advise their trucks, but it's only the trucks that are going to
But
their
that's
places.
been done. That's been done.
That has been done. These are not truck drivers who are working for the companies.
Right.
They are contracted by trucking companies
Right,
to
it's outside.
haul whatever they're hauling, deliver, pick up.
And it's hard to get them to do what they want to do, that's true.
So I guess my only question is, and I got to experience this the other day because a truck, an 18-wheeler got stuck coming down Pierce Street trying to turn because it's pretty large dip and he was trying to turn out. So he actually got stuck and he was trying to back up, but the back of his truck was actually scratching up Pierce Street because it's such a large incline. And I was sitting in the car looking at my husband thinking, ha ha ha, you shouldn't have went down that street. I wish there wasn't a way. And then I was thinking, why didn't we have a stop sign that literally is sitting in the middle of the road. What if we put a big island there, to your point? But I don't think that's the deterrent on the opposite side. I don't think that truck driver knew that was there, because if he knew it, he probably would not have gone that way. It took him 25 minutes to shimmy this truck to go inches to get around a guardrail to actually move around. And he's not the first one I've seen get stuck. I don't think he would logically have gone that way if he knew he wasn't actually able to make the turn easily. He wasn't able to make the turn easily at all. Is there, I know there's been emails about cuts on the other side of Pierce Street where we think they're coming in. I don't want to set a precedent. I don't know what we could do, but how do we make that like Pheasant Hill and Woodland, where we have curbs that are higher, or granite, that make it a little more narrow? And I don't know if I can do that. I see you looking, and I know Kevin's gonna yell, but the signs didn't work. How do we make it uncomfortable?
And they most assuredly turn left onto Pierce from Maple. I have a perfect view of it all day long. And most assuredly from the other direction, they're going up that blind curve at speed to make it up there, and it's a blind curve.
I
shouldn't
almost
be
had
on
an
Pierce Street.
accident with one a few weeks ago.
I'm just wondering if there's any, I mean, I do feel like even if they do waive this, DOT's probably gonna shut you down. How do you make it uncomfortable?
So I guess the question is, can we narrow that down to make it impossible for trucks to make that turn? I'm asking the DPW director.
I think we would wanna have somebody design something to do so, because we have to also, make sure that Republic trucks or our trash vendor can go down Pierce Street as well, school buses. There are still trucks that need to use those streets, so I do think that, and it is a narrow street. So we have to be considerate of, making sure we can do that. Largely, is an 18-wheeler gonna care about a 6-inch curb? It might not.
No, that's
They
why,
will
that's
still
why I
go over
hire.
it, but is it something? It should be a deterrent, certainly, but I do think that would need to be more of a professional level design than just throwing up an island in the middle and.
Or narrow the street down or whatever. And I agree with Christina, not a 6-inch curb. We don't want something that they're just gonna drive over and we're gonna be replacing it every 6 months. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna narrow the street so buses can make the turn, so the trash truck can make the turn, but it will deter, once they do it once, they start saying, this isn't the way we can go anymore, it's a problem. So I don't know that would be an engineering.
I'm not doing it. I just thought, how else could you do it? Because I really don't see this going through. I mean, we could vote yes, we could spend $15,000. Maybe the city of Worcester votes yes. My hope is they would. DOT then gets it and says no, and then you guys are we're stuck back here in this circle of.
I'd much rather spend money on an engineering design to change the road so that 18-wheelers can't go down it. That I get on board with all day.
Like some deterrent.
Okay, Mark?
I don't know if this is another way, but I would wonder if we could petition the GPS companies to change the route without doing anything else, and just to see if they would do that. You know, I mean, like, they might. I mean, it's a company, they can do whatever they
I
want.
guess my only question is, who is the GPS company?
Company.
I turn on my
Google,
phone
I
and there's satellites, I don't know.
I think iPhones use TomTom, I think Google is the Android.
Yeah, I would ask,
See,
at this point,
we
I
have
would,
trouble approaching Worcester. So you are going to go to the GPS?
I would, well, I mean, that's just free. I mean, it's not you just ask them,
I just,
you know?
What do we,
I don't know the answer to that question, but I think if everybody can approach the GPS companies,
Yeah,
people wouldn't be driving into ponds and everything because it happens all over the country. But I would ask that we look into some
Yeah.
type of engineering study, or you look into what will be needed in a cost to look at redesigning that area on Pear Street.
or make it a gated community.
So I guess that would
They're the
be,
only
that would be,
people allowed.
if you need a motion, or if you just, you know
What
what
do
we're
we-
looking to do, get some numbers together to see what it would cost to engineer
So you
that
don't like
street
GPS.
to, make
as
it,
well as we do need to have the booster and the PS
whatever,
for this.
I guess you tell the engineer what we're looking to do, and they'd give us an idea of what they feel can be done.
And
Okay.
if I could just add on to that, so in doing that too, that we want to make sure that we're not just taking the issue and moving it one block over, right? So that, I don't know how they would do that, but if we need to
Right.
put some kind of mechanical deterrent elsewhere as well, so it's not just pushing into the next neighborhood. So, but what I'm hearing the board say is, you know, certainly empathetic to these folks, and what they're going through, but it seems like the HCVE is kind of off the table, and we're gonna now look at some other mechanical type deterrents.
I wouldn't say off the table for me. I mean, if they come back and say to you they're gonna squash this 15, then let's do it.
Okay.
I mean, if they're gonna get rid of this 15 and
I
then
agree,
there's a
yeah.
chance to do it for free, I'd say go for it.
Yeah,
But,
we can always look at it, but you were right. If we don't pay it, they're gonna pay it.
right,
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Mark has his hand up.
What, Mark?
When you're asking other people about what they would suggest, can you, or is this foolish to ask them if they have any other ideas about GPS, how that information is transmitted to the GPS companies? Like how they know about one-way streets, how they know about right turn
Google has a
onlys.
car that drives around, literally drives around our town.
I
I've
don't
seen
think
them.
that, I don't,
I mean,
again,
could talk
I don't think satellites are
No.
through Google.
No.
Satellites are through satellites, so
Anyway.
I don't know if the engineer can answer that question for us, but
I'll certainly
ask.
ask.
Again, you're putting a price together for us so we can look at it.
Okay, thank you. It looks like, you know, our DPW director will be looking into this.
I know some board members have asked about the temporary sign that was placed on
Why it is
Pier
first
Street.
removed, yeah.
Are you interested in
Yes.
the update from the DPW director on that temporary sign for the public to all know and all the residents to know?
I know when it was originally, I was here in January. Oh, thank you. Thank you. In January, I had mentioned that the signs are not enforceable. So I did have that confirmed with the state regulations engineer, that the signs are in fact not enforceable. They have been authorized by the governing body, which is Mass DOT. MLP, as part of their pole replacement program, was just going through and doing new poles on Maple Street. The signage that was put up temporarily was damaged in the process of removing the old pole, installing the new pole. The feedback seems to be that they're not working. I think we can all agree now that it is not enforceable. So seeing if, I feel like my recommendation would be not putting back up that signage, and let's see what happens with Worcester on the 15-7, and we can look at some more physical things that might be able to be installed. In the meantime, get some pricing on that. So just seeing what your direction is.
Thank you. Any questions?
Clearly didn't work, so why are we gonna waste time and effort putting it back up?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Appointment and resignations, nothing. Town administrator report?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is really an announcement for the public, that those who have not seen, the annual tax classification public hearing will be on Wednesday, November 30th at 6:05 PM. I know some folks in the community sometimes question what it is that you're voting on, whether you're voting on the tax rate. So to just be clear to folks that that vote is to either keep a single rate or to split the tax rate that evening. The accountant has done the work that she is required to do for the recap, and the assessors are now determining their final property values, and they will be presenting their analysis to the Select Board on November 30th.
And that will also be our Board of Selectmen's meeting for the beginning of December, correct?
Yes, so the December 7th meeting is shifting to November 30th, and the purpose to shift it to that date is to get this tax classification hearing done so that the next steps of setting the tax rate and sending out the bills can happen. So, next is, the Veterans Day Breakfast was last Friday at the Senior Center. The thank you to the Senior Center and the Senior Center volunteers, our Veterans Agent Jake Webb and the Selectman Chair for coming out and making it a fantastic day for those veterans. There were a lot of conversations, great food, and a few lucky seniors walked out with, veterans, sorry, walked out with gift baskets from the Senior Center. Next up is Senator Chandler was able to secure a $100,000 earmark. There was a recent economic growth and relief bill, and that is for the architectural, mechanical, and electrical bid specifications for installation of a new high-efficiency air-to-water heat pump at the Beaman Memorial Public Library. So that bill is currently sitting on the governor's desk. Hopefully he signs it. There has been a lot of work already conducted on this heat pump system with studies having been completed. This would be the next step to get these final drawings done. There's actually no drawing of the system, so they'd have to recreate that and get it ready to go out to bid. And then looking at, this is overall probably a $500,000 project. So looking at various funding sources, whether it be Green Communities, capital, future legislative earmarks. So thank you very much to Senator Chandler in her final days in office for doing that, Representative O'Day for his support, and to Interim Administrator Jim Purcell for advancing that request. Okay, the next item is the Affordable Housing Trust voted last week to engage a consultant to do a recalculation of the general land area minimum in town, also known as the GLAM. So if you look at the Affordable Housing Trust website currently, you will see that there is a link to the last time that this calculation was completed, and that was in 2013. And at that point, it was determined that the town had exceeded the statutory minimum of 1.5%, meaning that when you take out, there's a lot of, so they take the total, I don't know how much the board is familiar with this, but also for the benefit of the public, you take the total land area of the town and you remove all different sorts of land, like DCR land, municipal land, waterways, et cetera. So then you get a new denominator, and you basically take the what is covered by subsidized housing currently to come up with this calculation. And if you meet this 1.5%, then you are in a safe harbor. However, so although we met it in 2013, the state changed, DHCD specifically changed these guidelines to say, and I have an illustration in your packets, that before you could count, and this really comes into play with the housing authority, before you could count the entire land that the housing authority, that parcel. And now it's just the building plus 50 feet. So there are a lot of rumors, which I'm going to address briefly, but the Affordable Housing Trust, based on some conversations that are occurring, has decided, let's go forward, let's get the calculation done. If we have the number, we have the number. If we don't have the number, then we know we don't have the number. And just, there is conversation. I saw, it's recently upticked on social media, so the public is aware that the Select Board does not have any comprehensive permit application before them. There are a potential of several 40B developments that the Select Board will be hearing from, those folks who are interested in a LIP project. But that's coming soon. I know a lot of folks might be listening tonight. So watch for future agendas, subscribe to make sure that folks are aware.
Question.
I know I asked this question before, but I think Raj and I were painfully involved in the prior one on the ZBA. And I got a lot of notes about the 2013 one and how we had hit this limit, and then we were told by the state, no, you actually didn't hit that limit, not sure where you came up. Are we using the same folks that did the last one in 2013 to do this study?
So do you know who did it in 2013?
I would
Looks
have
like a
to,
different one.
I was gonna say, I'd have to pull my notes, but I know when push came to shove and it went to the state said, no, actually, you
I
didn't
think we
hit
do,
that
I
number.
think they do have
It's a
another,
different
Pat,
person.
remember they
Yeah.
said that they're using, remember when they came to the CPC? They
Well,
said
they
they're
have-
using a new
Yeah.
person.
They have a new housing consultant. I don't know if that's the same
That's
person
a-
that's going to be doing.
So it's not, if it's LDS, it's not LDS that's doing this. I want to say it's,
There was an attorney they used to have that did it.
I want to say Scanlon. Does that sound?
I would just like to
Make sure.
make sure that the person that we used last time, because we found out hard that we actually, that might be on our website, but that was not a number we actually had. I would like to have a comparison of the last report to this report, and then to know who on that, what company we used
Sure.
versus this company.
Sure.
And then who actually, another question, sorry, Raj, through Raj. When they produce this report, this happens to a lot of people, I know we're all volunteers, we get an email with an attachment, here's your report. Some people read it, some don't. I imagine you read it, is there any interaction or pushback to this party that wrote this report, or engage in any collaboration on, how did you come up with this number?
I am happy to bring the consultant before, when the report is finalized, before this board, the Affordable Housing Trust, the ZBA, and any other board that may be interested. I'm happy to have those dialogues. I think that the completion date is, going to be relatively short order. From what I understand from the Housing Trust, he had availability in his schedule, so he is basically putting us in. And we'll see where we are. I mean, because I think the board needs to understand where we stand.
Yep.
And the public needs to understand where we stand, because I have folks who are emailing me and calling me saying, I see this on the website.
Yep.
And I'm hearing these rumors, so I think we just need an answer.
Yep, I agree.
Thank you.
Okay, so MBTA Communities update. So I know the board has been apprised that there was this new legislation that was passed about MBTA communities with the goal of creating more housing, not affordable housing, but just housing that's in the area of different MBTA services, and that under that, West Boylston was designated an adjacent community, which in short means that the town has to meet certain thresholds in order to be eligible for future state funding of certain types. So the DHCD has been revising their guidelines after receiving comments. I know this board, through your town administrator, did submit comments. The finalized guidelines have come out, and Vinnie Vignali of the Planning Board and myself attended a webinar with CMRPC and DHCD, and there is going to be a lot of technical assistance that's provided to communities that have been designated as either adjacent community or adjacent small town. And so the next steps are that the Planning Board will be meeting with CMRPC to work on an action plan. The action plan is due on January 31st of this upcoming year. In order to be compliant, we need to submit an action plan, and the action plan is basically saying, these are the steps that we plan to take in order to be compliant with MBTA community zoning, but there will need to be, at the end of this, which is in 2024, West Boylston will need to have zoned 39 acres of land that, as of right, building of 15 units per acre is allowed. And so that's pretty high density. There was questions of, does this need to be on land that's open and available for development? And the answer is no. So So we'll continue with the planning board to work through this, and I'll apprise the select board as the planning board moves further and further along in this process.
Listen,
On this one, if we just say no, we're not eligible for certain funding. I'd like to know what that funding is before we do anything, because if the funding is de minimis, it's,
no, that's a big
No,
one.
it's not. They really, I know off the top of my head, I was just gonna pull this up, but I know off the top of my head, MassWorks grants, which could be very significant, they're off the table,
Is
and.
it green, not green communities?
Not
There
green
were-
communities.
We asked about this one other time, and I thought, one of
I
the
think it's
questions.
anything that you
Chris had
apply
asked.
for in one stop, for the new one stop for growth, applications, Kevin, you
so
said.
it's not the one-off $2,000 grants.
No,
It's-
No,
no, this
these
is the
are-
big monies, big monies.
And MassWorks can be huge, multi-million-dollar grants for
We'll say the
infrastructure
reservoir
projects.
is the 15 acres.
There you go.
And we're all set.
Actually, Vinnie Vignali has some interesting thoughts, so stay
imagine.
tuned.
I could imagine.
Yep.
Were there any other but I'll share that with you all via an email. And then, green communities update, so we, have recently submitted our annual report, through the assistance of CMRPC. This year, the former town administrator, was able to secure grants for LED lighting at the fire department, DPW, and 3 pump stations. There was also an HVAC upgrade at DPW, and through the grant itself, the professional grant management through CMRPC. The next round is April 2023. CMRPC and the Green Communities folks at DOER have both told us that LED lighting is off the table. Nancy was actually very lucky to have received, she was one of the few folks that received LED lighting still. That's the biggest bang for your buck in cost savings and immediate realization of those savings. So LED lighting projects are off the table, and also anything fossil fuel related. So really looking towards electrification. I know that the school has a potential project that might be the entire grant this year. If that is what they're interested in funding. It's, DOER kind of has their preference every year that can change of what types of projects they like to fund. So we'll engage with them to see what they're interested in funding, so we make sure we can submit something that will be funded. Shared planner discussion. I just wanted to let the board know that I am in very, very preliminary conversations utilizing CMRPC as a conduit for these discussions about a shared planner. We don't have any full-time professional planning, and I think that the planning board and the ZBA and other boards, utilize a lot of consultant work, and then sometimes find themselves in situations where they have to consult legal a lot about some of these more difficult situations. So just looking at, is there somebody that, would want to share a planner, and then can we fund it? So there's been shared planners in other nearby communities. I'll speak to the one that I know about, Boylston and Upton, so not even adjacent communities, but Boylston and Upton were both sharing a planner. It worked so well that when that planner went on to greener pastures, both communities are now saying, actually, we see the cost that we saved, and we're actually looking to now hire a full-time planner.
I guess just based on this, and until speaking to you, I think of corporate, a planner very different. Can you just provide some context? What does a planner mean for a town? What is that role? What do they do?
Sure, so a planner is a person that typically has a master's degree level of education, who works with developers and boards on making sure that projects meet our zoning bylaws and stepping developers through a process while also protecting the town. And then they also work on those large-scale planning documents that we farm out. Sometimes they still farm out pieces of them, but they make sure that the plans that we have paid money for are incorporated into all other aspects. So for example, because we were just talking about 40B development, right? So I'm gonna use a 40B development as an example. If we had a planner on staff, and there was somebody proposing a potential 40B, the planner would be sitting down with that developer to talk to them, guiding them through a process, bringing them before the select board, helping the ZBA in their decision, helping write the conditions, helping write decisions of the ZBA and the planning board, making sure that a lot of conditions are included so that you don't find yourself in a situation where, oh, woulda, shoulda, coulda, I wish I had written that into a plan. So everything from roads, access, height, sometimes they take on a bit of economic development as well.
Do they, on the end, and I think, I'm just thinking of 40B, at the end of planning, I mean, they must plan out what's gonna happen after the project ends, how it closes, or as a 40B, what should we be requesting to get certain monies back from those developers that we have not done a very good job of doing in the past?
So, and all that, or you have a developer who has a punch list in order to get a street accepted, right? And they, rather than coming before the planning board to work through those items on the punch list, they can work directly with the planner to kind of narrow it down, explain what the planning board is looking for, you know, and then say, it's good enough, let's bring it before the planning board. These folks are not cheap, though. They are very expensive, they're in very high demand. It's very difficult to find one, so even if we were able to do this, it might be difficult to find one. So that's why it's see if there's anybody interested in sharing, see if it makes sense financially for the town, look at, you know, cost savings, or is it gonna be flat, not having to go out to those outside sources, and see if it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna completely rule out all that you said. Legal
No.
fees are still involved, so
No.
we can't say legal fees.
Well, but
are
some
part
of,
it.
some of them.
Everything you said, that plan is gonna say, okay, this report, this is what I think, it's gotta go to town council. But
Some of
let's
it.
look at it.
Yeah.
Let's look at the cost, let's look at what we can do and what we can,
Can we afford it?
yeah.
Yeah,
if
I mean,
it
there's
can be-
questions that I'm asking legal right now about some projects that I think a planner just knows these things, right? It's their wheelhouse, this is their world.
But, you know, any other boards, like a planning or zoning, we do use the outside VHP or other companies.
So it's
as
that
a-
cost
yeah,
savings.
Well, you'd
Consultant.
still use VHB on, they're not traffic engineers, so you'd still use VHB for roads. They're not engineers.
No, but they do have a traffic engineers in VHP, yeah.
Right,
And
so you
also
still
this,
farm that out.
yeah.
So,
My point that I would like to make is, I think that, I don't know how good it would be to be a shared resource. I think we should go and see if we could get a professional to come in and be a full-timer, but would not just be the planner. He would be sort of a planner and maybe like a project kind of person working with town administrator, but always here. And the only good thing is then there's continuity between all the different projects that are going on, you know, just in town, because that person would be the person always here. Affordable
Mr.
housing. and-
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, let me be clear, if I thought that there was capacity in this budget,
Yeah.
I would be absolutely saying, let's get a full-timer in
Yeah,
here.
this-
You know, they would be writing all your zoning bylaws, all of that stuff, let's get them in here. It's a budgetary matter, so,
We afford it.
I don't think we can afford a full-time person, but if we can afford a part-time person, and we can build that into the budget, it's a lot
Build a use
easier to then, in the future, fund a full-time, because we've already absorbed that into the budget, the
I
part-time.
just think a part-time or a shared resource is gonna be able to do 20% of what a 100% full-time person could do. It's not gonna be 50%. You know, they're not gonna be here, they're not gonna be at all the meetings, they're not gonna have the continuity, they're not gonna help you on
Right.
a lot of, you know, things that a full-time person could. So I think that the effectivity of a full-timer is gonna be much more than a part-time.
I would love a full-timer. All right, so cannabis law update, so, an act relative to equity in the cannabis industry became effective November 9th. Vice Chairman Ruccio and Mr. Crowley and I all attended a webinar, recently hosted by the Selectboard Association and KP Law. The webinar is available if any other board members, would like to watch it, but the take-home of that there are many questions that remain unanswered. about the effect of this new law. And we are going to be looking for guidance to come out from the Cannabis Control Commission, who hopefully will answer some of those questions. And the last thing is the election turnout. So I think the town clerk was actually finalizing the certification of the election today, but we had a very strong turnout with 3,417 voters casting their ballots. And I just wanted to publicly thank the town clerk, assistant town clerk, and the election workers who all worked to make sure it was a smooth and efficient election. For those of you that came in the evening, the line was wrapping around the inside of that building. So there were a lot of folks turning out to vote, which is always great.
Thank you. Any questions? Future agenda items?
Mark got a question.
Mark?
No, he doesn't. He-
Oh,
No, I did have a question, but it was,
Go ahead.
I don't know where it comes from, but when you mentioned the cannabis, have there been any issues coming up with cannabis that have come to you? About
Issues?
Smells.
Yep, so, there were some complaints about
Mr.
odors.
Chairman, I think that would probably be next agenda.
Next agenda.
So-
Sure,
So the
sure.
public
I
will know
told
that's
you I
what
didn't
we're
have a
gonna-
question.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Rochelle.
Thank you. Future agenda items, select board reports. So,
I just have, well, two. December 4th at 4 PM is going to be the Christmas tree lighting on the town common. If anybody was there last year, they know it was a big success. That we're gonna have Captain Ron's handing out hot chocolate. There will be cookies from Darby's. Santa Claus will be there to read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," and we're going to have the West Boylston a cappella chorus singing Christmas carols, no charge for the public. It's a completely free event, and it's being put on by the Celebrations Committee. And then now it's winter time. The policy, snow and ice policy, we didn't get to go over, but if it does snow, you have a fire hydrant in front of your house, nobody's gonna shovel it out. Please shovel out the fire hydrant so that if there is a fire, the precious time isn't wasted with the firemen having to shovel that out. It doesn't take that long. If you have an elderly neighbor who has a fire hydrant in front of their house, please go do the one in front of their house for them, or for you, really. That's it.
So, Economic Development Board, I sit on his chair. We had a great chance to meet with the town administrator. We are looking at all 4 of our economic development web pages that are on the town website, along with videos, which was a great finding. We've put together a small list of businesses in town, but some of the things that the board is looking to do is to have another maybe roundtable business meeting, morning coffee, to talk to some of the businesses in town. We're also going to start, hopefully going to start a way for businesses to update their business contact information and to get information from town. I know we have some new ones coming in, but we don't have an actual list, and neither does the Chamber of Commerce, of the businesses that are currently in our town and who owns them or contact information. Outside of that, that board does have 2 openings, and I would love to have someone join those boards to help. They do meet once a week.
Once a week?
Not once a week, once a month. I thought I saw your hand go up, so I was trying to get it out and answer the question.
It was his hand.
don't distract now.
And then on the SWAT, we do have a meeting tomorrow, but one of the items on the meeting tomorrow is we're gonna discuss the next cleanup day in town, and hopefully my next meeting will report some of the new things that we'll be doing on that for our townwide cleanup day. Those are the boards.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
I have one
Yep, those are all
future
the boards
agenda
I-
item.
Go ahead.
I would like to bring up the discussion on a facility person. I know that we have that paragraph that sits out there that's not, I don't know what that person has to do, but I would never apply for that job online. I would love to have that as a future agenda item to really discuss getting someone here and
First-
what we need to change.
Facilities director.
Okay.
We have a part-time facilities director approved. And.
Past year, I think.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
couple of years back.
2 years, I think.
2 years back. And along that line, what's happening with the senior center cook?
That's a good one too.
Thank you. So, nothing, future agenda item, I guess. And the next select board meeting is November 30th instead of November 7th. November 7th, no meeting. I'm sorry, December 7th. And also, I was wondering, instead of December 21st, can we have the meeting on December 14th?
That's fine.
Except,
there a planning board
everyone
meeting?
said yes, except Mark. So
we have a
far,
planning board
so
meeting that
far.
day?
We can always move it.
So is that
Then no, if we have a planning board.
official? Oh,
What is it?
I don't know if we have a planning board meeting that week.
We'll have to look into a motion to adjourn.
Second,
If we can't get it tonight, we can look at our calendars all day,
versus
but
double check.
I was just gonna look on the town account.
Okay, so we will fix the December 14th bit later. And we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
we already had a second.
We have a motion and second. It's not debatable. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.